Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Cloud Show. I am here at ESPC in Stockholm. It's a huge conference, and we're having a lot of fun here. And I get to meet up with some of my really good friends around the world and talk about all kinds of interesting topics. So now we're going to delve into, talk about, and try to figure out the return on investment for the quite significant capital expenditure that a manager could make while getting Copilot licenses. And to talk about this interesting topic, I am going today have the star of Tony Redmond.
So,
hello, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Welcome to the Cloud Show.
Thank you. Yes.
The ESPC conference, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I've been to a few of them now, and this is a very good community conference.
This is a very good community conference. I agree.
I like the interaction here a lot.
Yeah.
I like the level of technical information that's provided by people.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is a conference that is not too heavily dominated by Microsoft. I mean, there's clearly a Microsoft presence here, but it's not as dominant as you get in some conferences.
I think that there's an open and honest conversation about some things that, might be possible to improve in the Microsoft ecosystem as well.
Well, you got to hope. You gotta hope.
Yes.
I'm not sure that the message gets through all the time, but there you have it.
That's probably true.
That's my ongoing challenge.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good one. It's a big challenge. And let's first, for the audience, who are you, Tony? And like a little bit, what do you do?
Well, I was a corporate executive for years in digital equipment, Compaq, and HP.
Yeah.
I ended up as a vice president in HP, a chief technology officer, and. Got to the age of 50, decided that maybe there was a different life. So I retired and became an independent consultant. And now that's what I've been doing. I write a lot about Microsoft 365 on practical365.com, office365itpros.com, and of course the Office 365 for IT Pros book.
Okay. And so you're here at the conference as a speaker.
Yep.
And you are talking about M365 and so forth in your talks, I guess? Yep. Very good.
I talked about the Graph PowerShell.
Oh, nice.
SDK. Because we're in a bit of a transition there. There's an awful lot of people who came from the on-premises world who know PowerShell.
Yeah.
And know how to deal with things like Exchange and SharePoint and
with
Teams,
PowerShell,
but not necessarily know how to do the Graph.
Graph is a different beast.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
I did another session, which is how to get information out of the Microsoft 365 audit log.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of interesting because the audit log is the truth of what people actually do inside
of what they do specifically. Yes.
Yeah. So that if you understand how to use the audit log, you can extract a lot of very interesting information from it.
I believe so, and with compliancy and things like that, sometimes companies need to have proof of audit trails and things like that.
Well, I mean, there are other compliance features that are available to do that kind of thing. Certainly, the audit log is of interest to forensic investigators,
right?
Who need to understand what exactly happened and who did what, when, and where. My perspective on it is that any tenant administrator needs to know how to get data out of the audit log,
right? Just
to understand stuff
about
their tenant.
Very cool. So we're almost talking about a different thing right now than what we intended to talk about.
Well, we're not.
With this man, it's so fascinating.
We're not.
We're not. Okay.
Because you started off by talking about the massive investment that people are making in AI at the moment.
They are.
Clearly, Microsoft has a huge play here. They're investing up to $20 billion,
massive amounts in that. Yes,
in building out their data centers and their software.
Yes,
that cost is being passed on to customers. It's $360 a year for Copilot, Microsoft 365 Code.
That's right.
So the question is, what data exists to prove that Copilot is being used?
That's right. So a manager is, convinced somehow by a salesperson, right, to acquire licenses, right, for Copilot, and it's an individual, like per person license per month, racks up to $360 a year
US list
per person.
Yeah.
So if you have many people, then you got a hefty amount.
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume that you've got some negotiation skills and you can get
Yes,
the price
well,
up. But the point is,
but
is
anyway, it's a lot of money.
that it's a big investment.
Yes.
And the question I get asked a lot by people is, okay, I've made the investment. It's about a year into the Copilot journey.
Yeah.
It's a good time after a year to look back and say,
To take
who's using it?
Yeah,
What are they using it for?
that's right.
And am I getting value about it? Because the great promise of AI is that you get
Productivity
information faster,
gains
productivity gain.
and
I'm not absolutely sure that you get it.
okay.
I really haven't. I mean, I use Copilot myself, but I'm not sure I get that value. I get huge value out of GitHub Copilot.
I'm pretty sure that some persons in a company can return that investment with what they do, right?
Some can.
But I'm pretty convinced that not everyone in the company will be able to do it. So the question is, where's the break even, if you will, right? It's okay if a few people are not using it at all.
Yeah,
but
no, it's not. That's a waste of license.
Right, and that's the question. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So what people are doing now is that they're saying after a year, who's using it, who's not, and I've got this pool of Copilot licenses. How can I make sure that I can give those Copilot licenses to people who actually use it?
Yes.
Because if you don't use a technology, you get zero benefit from it.
Why are we paying for it? Right. Exactly that.
The problem that they then come up with is to find that the information which is available, let's say in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center,
yes,
there's a tell you usage report for Copilot, is very, very skimpy. I mean, if you use, so here's an example.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah.
If you've got a Copilot license, Word will automatically generate
things
a summary
for me. Yeah,
of a document when you open it.
That's pretty good, yeah.
But to Microsoft, to the usage report data that Microsoft accumulates, that indicates that you're a very heavy user of Word, Copilot, and Word. I would say you're absolutely not using Copilot and Word because this has been done automatically. What do you get any benefit unless you actually use the data?
That turns into sort of a false positive.
Well, no, it's just Microsoft is pumping up the amount of usage of it, and they're hoping that people will look at it and say, "Oh, the summaries are useful, therefore I can use Copilot to do other stuff," and I can see why they're doing it.
Okay.
But the point is that if you're looking at the hard data to measure against,
and this is
you're only going to you're seeing false readings.
That's what I'm saying. It looks like there's a lot of people using those summaries, but they are in fact just automatically there.
Well, you don't even know that they're using summaries.
Right.
You know that they're using Word Copilot or Copilot in Word.
That's right.
It appears like, but there are other things. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're using Copilot and Word to generate text. It doesn't mean that they're using Copilot and Word to refine text.
That's right.
Both of which I would hold to be more high-value activities than a summary.
That's probably true, yeah.
Right? Especially an automatic summary that's derived from a document that I never asked for us to summarize.
So you're telling me that you can read the logs and see somebody's using Word Copilot that's basically because they opened the document in Word. But you can't differentiate what they're actually doing in there?
What I'm saying, what I'm saying is that the usage, in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you have usage reports.
Yeah.
Usage reports are based out of a data warehouse.
Yeah.
And are accessed through a Graph API.
Yes.
The Graph API is not very granular.
No.
And what I'm saying is that when it reports to you that this user is a heavy consumer of Copilot and Word, you have no idea whether that user actually is just seeing all these automated summaries, or they're actually interacting with Copilot and Word in some productive manner.
Doing something else actively with it, right.
So the usage data is not very good. And what I've heard from a lot of customers is that they don't have enough granular information to figure out who is actually
if there's
leveraging
value,
Copilot to use the AI. Because, a summary is not really a very good use of AI.
No.
Not in a document. Not in a document.
Not in its
It
own.
is in something like, if you to summarize an email thread or to summarize a Teams meeting.
Teams meeting is good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Summary, fine.
Yeah.
But to have this automatic creation of of a document summary, I'm sorry, that's not a good use of AI.
No, it's not necessarily a good use of AI, unless you explicitly have a document, and I'm really going to like this. This is so much information. I'm going to actively do it. Maybe.
But Copilot can't deal with very large documents. So
there's that. So what can we do in this space to help company leaders assess the value of the return on investment on Copilot licenses?
Well, I think it all comes down to data. I mean, Microsoft is famed for talking about their telemetry.
Yeah.
They say that the decisions they make about where they're going to invest in is through telemetry. They look at stuff and they say what features are people using, and they're the ones they're going to invest in. So I turn that around and say, well, what data is available to you?
That's right.
And the data that's available to you is in the audit log, because you can parse the audit log data. And in fact, there was a great session here yesterday by a guy from Finland whose name escapes me totally, but he talked about how using some of the audit log data, he was able to take that, parse it out, and then push it into Power BI.
And I think the name you're looking for is Sakari Nahi.
Could be.
Yeah. Anyway.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, like, it sounds a good name.
Think so.
Yeah. I'd have to look at it. I was just sitting in the audience.
Yep.
In fact, I have a version of a PowerShell script that's written, but I haven't actually published the article yet.
Yeah.
Which takes data from the usage logs and scores people based on what if you like, fingerprints we find in using Copilot in Word, in Teams, in Excel, in PowerPoint, in Loop, and OneDrive, OneNote, and all the rest of it. But then also says, okay, that's the basic data. That's a non-granular data. That's just a marker that you have actually interacted with Copilot in these workloads at least once a day to set the flag.
Yeah.
But then associated with that, for each user, we have audit log data, which says, okay, when we dive deeper, we can see that there were these kind of interactions. Now, if you want to dive really deep, and this is where we get forensically deep, what you can use is the graph APIs to open an Exchange mailbox, the user's mailbox, and go to the hidden folder where the compliance records are kept. And by parsing the details of the compliance records, you can find the prompts and the responses.
Oh, what they actually were asking and the responses to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now that is that's a huge. It's an interesting exercise in computer science.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not something I necessarily recommend unless you're in the middle of a forensics investigation, and you have got the sign-off, which is necessary to approve invading somebody's personal mailbox.
That's right.
To have a look, because, some of those prompts and some of those responses may contain PII.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's not an exercise that I would suggest
just in general
people doing, and I don't suggest that any administrator, for example, takes the code that we wrote using the graph to do this.
Makes sense.
To go and say, well, let me take the mailboxes of the CEO and their direct reports, and I'm just going to poke through their Copilot records and find out what they've been up to.
I can see some issues there.
So that the kind of privacy there. But the point is that the data is there if you want to use the data, you want to extract the data.
Yep.
But you've got to have a reason to use it. And the reason that I'm seeing people coming to now is, as I say, it's about a year. They're now reviewing and saying, okay, maybe I bought 600 Copilot licenses. Do I need 800?
Yeah.
Or do I need 400?
Or do we need 400? Exactly.
And if I only need 400, who am I going to give them to?
Yeah.
And what I've talked to a couple of companies who are saying, well, what we need is something like an Azure automation job that runs once a month in the background, analyzes all this data, and let's say it says, well, you're not using Copilot very much, but I know you're on vacation, so that's okay. Okay? But this other chap over here, he's not using Copilot very much, so I'm going to take Copilot away from that person, and I'm going to give it to a candidate user. And a candidate user might be somebody
Interesting.
who's in a department where we know has heavy Copilot usage.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they don't have it, and they're at a particular level. There's lots of ways. I mean, this is just data
That's-
manipulation.
yes,
but they're
it's
talking
very-
about
it's very
doing that
interesting.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have a dynamic shift of Copilot licenses.
But you need to drive it with some decision data. Otherwise, you can't know who would get or not.
That's the kind of stuff we're working on.
Interesting. Well, that's a very interesting conversation indeed, but that's all the time we have for this episode. I want to thank you for coming on the Cloud Show to talk to me about this. Thank you very much, Tony.
Cheers.
And audience, we'll see you guys next time on the Cloud Show.